Welcome at home with Stacy Encourage, where you will find me busy creating clean products, preserving, planning delicious, nutritious meals for my friends and family. Let's use Roma tomatoes to create two condiments. We are first going to start off by prepping our tomatoes. And all you're doing is removing just the stem area from these tomatoes. Now, I am not blanching these, I am blending these to save myself the hassle. And Roma tomato is perfect because there is not a lot of liquid in there. So give these a good blend. I am using my high powered blender. You can cut these up if your blender is not as powerful as my blender is. Whatever means to get these blended, it doesn't matter. Just use what you have. And I'm going to continue to add more Roma tomatoes in there and continue to blend. And as I blend these tomatoes, I am adding them to my stock pot. It is important that your stock pot have an additional bottom so that way it does not burn. Very important. So we are going to repeat this step until we are finished with our Roma tomatoes. And this is about 25 to 30 pounds of tomatoes. I know it is a lot. I got it at a deal. So now you want to boil this. And as I said before, make sure that your pot could handle the heat and it's not just an aluminum pot. Continue to stir and keep your eyes on the pot. You don't have to stir it all the time, but check in and keep stirring. It took about 7 to 8 hours for this to completely boil down to the texture that I like. Once it started boiling down, I reduced my heat to medium and then completely to low. Now that it has reduced to a texture that I like, I will be separating the two sauces. One is going to be the tomato paste and one will be the ketchup. I am using 24 ounces for the ketchup. And I'm just giving that a nice mix and I'm going to continue to simmer. And in this phase, I will be simmering everything on low. Very important. This is the paste. We still have a little way to go for the paste. Now for the fun part. I am grounding some clove, 2 teaspoons of cloves, and I inserted the recipe so you guys can go back and get the recipe. I am grounding my clove. I am grating some nutmeg, fresh nutmeg. And you guys know I love to use fresh ingredients. That's my thing. So I'm going to be blending all of this together and we are going to be adding it to our base. This is some vinegar, apple cider vinegar. I needed some onion powder, so I used dried onion. I also went ahead and I add 1 onion. You can add more onion if you like and give everything a nice blend. You want a smooth texture. You should not feel any clump in your ketchup. So I like to blend things in pat. Now that I blend everything in pat, I am adding my spices and I inserted the different spices that I use. Of course, I'm going to use some garlic. You don't have to use garlic. And now we are going to pour that into our ketchup base and stir everything together. When I tell you this ketchup is delicious, I love it. And knowing that all of the ingredients in here are clean, I love it even more. Now I'm adding my sugar, not too much sugar so it's not overly sweet. Ketchup tend to be very, very sweet. So again, when you do it for yourself, you get to control whatever you have in there. I'm also stirring my paste. Make sure that your stove is low because things will start burning. So far, everything is looking good. Everything is simmering and I'm keeping my eyes on everything. Now, this step is optional, but to speed up the process of the ketchup, I am using clear gel and create a mixture. And I inserted how I did that. You could miss this step. You don't have to do this step, but I'm going to use it, right? Now there is two ways to mix this. I find that this way was easy, simple, and I had no clumping. Take your time in this step. You don't want to rush this process. You don't want it to be clumpy. You want to mix everything slowly and just keep pouring in there, right? You can also mix this in with your sugar, but do what works for you. And as you see, there is no clump. It is perfectly mixed and blend in there. So now you want to let this simmer on low for about 1 hour on the stove. And I just went and blend just to make sure that it is perfectly smooth, which it was. Keep in mind that this will thicken, so do not leave it on the stove too long because it will be difficult for you to put them in your jars. Of course, make sure that you sterilize your jars for 15 minutes before. And of course, let's assemble everything by adding our ketchup to our sterilized, clean, hot jars, leaving about a 1/4 inch head space. Very important. So, and you know, anything that bubbles up, there is room. Okay. And now you want to take your damp cloth or paper towel and you want to clean the rim of your jar. Do this at least 2 times. I even do it 3 times, making sure that there is no ketchup sticking on the rim. And once that is done, you want to remove the air or the bubble. That is where you're removing any air bubbles that may be hiding in there. Add your hot lids, clean sterilized hot lids, that is, to your jar. And of course, take your ring band and finger tighten each jar. Don't tighten them too tight. Leave a little bit of a room. Okay, they will seal. Once our tomato paste is at the texture that we like, we will be removing it from the pan and adding it to a bowl, and we will be chilling these overnight or until it's completely chill because we will be freezing these in cubes. Now, this took a lot of tomatoes, but I appreciate the fact that it's clean and there is no artificial preservatives in there. After about 20 or 25 minutes, remove your jars from your water bath canner or your steam canner and make sure that you secure them on a cloth or a wooden surface. Make sure you label when you created your product. And there we have it, clean and delicious homemade ketchup. Now that our pastes have been cooled and chilled, we are going to be adding them to cubes because usually most of us don't use a lot of tomato paste. So this is a perfect way to store them. That way you take what you need and you use what you need. Alrighty, so just add them to these trays, and once we add them to these trays, we're going to pop them in the freezer. Once it's nice and frozen, we are definitely going to be storing them for long-term storage. Now this was definitely a labor of love. After about 24 hours, this is how it's look. It's perfectly frozen. And I went ahead and I added them to these freezer bags. And I am just going to use them as needed. I am so proud of this. It definitely was a labor of love. So thanks for watching At Home with Stacy in Courage. And I will see you in the kitchen in a bit. Talk to you later.